I'm Joanna Simpson here at Quant Minds International in Barcelona. Joining me now is Andrew McClelland, Director of Quantitative Research at Numerix. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Joanna.
And just tell me, how does it feel to be back at Quant Minds International?
Oh, excellent. It feels like it was back to normal. It feels like it was in 2018 and 2019. Yeah, it's great. Great to be back. It's great to see everybody in person again, and that in-person interaction. It's just priceless.
And if you could just talk me through your work on risk and pricing models and explain how the work you do at Numerix can help banks manage risks.
Sure. Well, I'm working on the interface between pricing models and risk models. So pricing models we use to price derivatives, value derivatives, compute things like credit valuation adjustments. Risk models we use to measure risk, generate scenarios, and then we use our pricing models along those scenarios to revalue the derivatives and look at how bad things can get for our portfolio. Now, we can use pricing models to measure risk. So pricing models, we can use them to measure risk by, because things like the credit valuation adjustment has a lot in common with things like measuring counterparty credit risk. So there's a lot of overlap there. And when we're using pricing models for CVA, the credit valuation adjustment, we have these fantastic numerical techniques at our fingertips, things like least squares Monte Carlo and modern extensions of least squares Monte Carlo. There are plenty of presentations at Quant Minds this year talking about extensions, using neural networks and more intelligent interpolation schemes. These sorts of techniques allow us to project forward the values of our derivatives portfolio in a very efficient way across many scenarios. So that's a real benefit for using pricing models in a risk setting. And pricing models can be worked into pretty decent alignment with risk models. They can be worked into alignment with the historical behavior of our markets. And that's important because we need that to get accurate risk scenarios. But unfortunately, it does leave a little bit to be desired, especially if you're the risk manager or if you're in the risk department. They'll say, look, you're shoehorning your pricing model into our risk problem. They'll say, I like my risk model, I understand my risk model. You've got some nice techniques, but I want my risk model. So unfortunately, as you move more towards the risk model, you lose all of those nice techniques that are available for the pricing model, that you can use for pricing models. So my job, and what I'll be presenting here at the conference, is, okay, well, as we move to risk models, how much of that, those tools from the pricing model world can we take over? To what extent can we extend least squares Monte Carlo and the associated techniques when we're working directly with risk models? And that's what I'll be presenting on Thursday.
And what are some of the largest challenges and opportunities that you and your clients have experienced over the last year, and how have you tried to solve them?
Well, for me, I tend to work on larger scale XVA, counterparty credit risk implementations and the components of those implementations, the building blocks. And those aren't, I'll be honest, it's been a tumultuous year in markets, but it's not, these sorts of components, they're not too fast moving. They don't respond too rapidly to the market. I think to a certain extent, when you're talking about counterparty credit risk and then XVA, I think many banks and I think many vendors and many of us would say, yeah, we're still playing a bit of a game of catch up. There are still gaps compared to where we were. The ideal world, the ideal state for a counterparty credit risk or an XVA system, as envisioned after the financial crisis, I think we're still a ways from getting there, and it's constantly moving forward. There is constantly new technology being made available, algorithmic differentiation, neural networks, and everything else. So for us, it's really just we basically know the task ahead of us. It's just head down and getting to it. I will say though, at least I'll give you one example is that yes, counterparty credit risk clients, I do feel a bit more urgency from them. They're looking at things like, one anecdotal example is calibrating the risk model, calibrating your risk model. They're concerned and they want to make sure that the risk model is able to respond to changes in the market environment. As markets become more volatile, they want to make sure that risk model is able to capture that so that the scenarios that they're producing to try to measure their risk are actually reflecting that they look like they're coming from a period of high volatility as opposed to just any old day in the market. So that's certainly, we've heard that on a number of avenues from along a number of channels from our clients. Yeah.
Andrew McClelland, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Joanna.